Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is your editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, Jeff Hartman, with a brand new podcast. You might have seen the title and said, Next Man Up. What is that? Let me explain. This offseason, I have decided as not only the editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, but also the producer of our podcast platform to really kind of give you the best content possible. We'll put it that way from an audio perspective. I think we do a tremendous job on the written side of things in terms of film breakdowns, commentary, features, and the latest breaking news surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers. However, the one thing that I feel like we could do better is give you more than just one show a day. And so in the off season, we're going to start having some other shows offered to you other than the one a day. And I understand that maybe this might be a lot for some people, but for some people, they can't get enough. And so we're going to test the waters a little bit. That's what the off season's for. I'm going to start today with this Next Man Up podcast. It's not going to be as long, but it's going to be one where I'm hoping it to be interactive with you, the fan, and also be informative in one way, shape, or form. Quick programming note, because it's the holidays, tomorrow, Christmas Eve, that's when Dave's Stat Geek is normally on. He is still going to be on, but it's going to be much earlier. So if you're someone that is always tuning in to Dave's show, make sure that you are tuned in tomorrow around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time so that you will get to see Dave Schofield and the Brother Sco. I'm sure he'll be around for the Steelers Stat Geek. So what is the Next Man Up? The Next Man Up is not just one of Mike Tomlin's favorite Tomlinisms. It is also... for me, it's this episode, it's this show where I can kind of pick whatever I want to discuss that's surrounded, the Pittsburgh Steelers, whatever the case may be. And so today's episode is based on something that I teased in the Steelers Hangover earlier today. I joined Brian and Tony, had a great time celebrating Festivus with them, airing our grievances, so to speak. And so I thought I'd tease this out, and I'm going to write an article tomorrow. And so for those people that listen in audio podcast platforms, if you're seeing this on YouTube, you might not see it on audio platform until the article publishes. It's probably about mid-morning. And so I'm going to time the publish of the podcast for our audio side at the same time as the article when it'll go out on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Before we get started, Tom gives $2 in the tip jar, says Merry Christmas to me, Jeff, and the team at BTSC. Merry Christmas to you and happy holidays to everyone out there. Absolutely. Wish everyone to be safe, have fun, enjoy it. Don't let the Steelers get you down. So speaking of the holidays, I'm off work currently, and I was cleaning up the house today, and I spoke about this on the Steelers Hangover. I was thinking to myself about Randy Fichtner, and yes, I am twisted. I do think about the Steelers often when I'm not writing about them or talking about them. It's become my job, and so I was thinking about Randy Fichtner, and the only thing I could think about is that, boy, this guy's turning into a really, really big scapegoat for the fan base. For instance, guys like me are blaming Randy Fichtner for a lot of the issues that the Steelers have experienced on offense. But I asked myself, should we be blaming Randy Fichtner? Should we? And that's easier said than done. I think for me, the one thing that kept on coming to my mind wasn't even an offensive coach. It was Keith Butler. And that's the headline of the first inaugural episode of Next Man Up. Keith Butler, in my opinion, is a perfect example of why the Steelers need to show patience with Randy Fichtner. And the reason being is that if you go back and rewind the tapes and go back 2-3 years, you would hear all the same comments that were made about Randy Fichtner and his, incapability of putting players in the right position to succeed, about Randy Fichtner's inability to call a good game, and Randy Fichtner's downright incompetence as an offensive play caller. You could just flip the script to the defensive side and you would hear the same exact thing just about Keith Butler, about how he can't get the right players in position, how he doesn't know how to coach them up, all these different things. And the one thing I kept thinking about is, let's look at what Randy Fichtner is having to work with this season. Okay, so Ben Roethlisberger, who the offense was built around, obviously is done for the year. Okay, that's obvious. Done for the year. And so when he's done for the year, that means that the offense in general is losing the biggest piece of the puzzle. It's the offense that this whole thing was structured around. Now, you could put blame and say that you shouldn't be doing that in the first place, not with a guy like Ben Roethlisberger, and that's fine. You can absolutely say that. However, at the same time, when you lose that quarterback, you don't know what you're going to do necessarily. You're looking at a Mason Rudolph, Joshua Dobbs was traded away, and then you have Devlin Hodges, an undrafted rookie. No one expected this to happen, but even outside of that, they had the offensive line that was solidified. No issues, or I should say, shouldn't have been any issues there. But from a wide receiving core, you obviously lose Mr. Third and Fifth, Mr. Antonio Brown. No longer have Le'Veon Bell, but you didn't have him in 2018 anyways. That shouldn't be that big of a deal. All I'm saying is that the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm not excusing Randy Fichtner's play calling at times this year. I've been as frustrated as anyone with the offense, and we're all frustrated with the offense. But what I'm getting at is that how many people out there, and if you're in the live chat, let me know, can honestly say that they had an issue with Keith Butler in 2019 so far? Anyone? I'm trying to wait and see if anyone chimes in the live chat. Here's the thing: is because everyone wanted Keith Butler fired. Everyone was so furious when the Pittsburgh Steelers decided to stick with Keith Butler. They were furious. They said this guy should be gone. And now he's had, and granted, a big caveat here is that he has a defense that's riddled with first and second round draft picks. That matters. But at the same time, I think that's patience. You got to have patience. And everyone always said Keith Butler doesn't have the horses to run the schemes that he wants to run. Maybe what we're seeing now is that he has the horses to run the schemes that he's running, and it's effective. It's effective to the point that they're a top 5 defense, and some would consider them to be a top 3 defense, and the tops in terms of sacks and things like takeaways. So Randy Fichtner now has an offense that is struggling, rightfully so. I know that I came in the post game after Week 16's loss against the Jets, 16-10 at MetLife Stadium, and I was furious. And I said, you know what? If they fired Randy Fichtner, I'd probably say good riddance. And if they still did decide to fire Randy Fichtner for whatever reason, which I don't think they're going to do, I can't say that I would be ridiculously upset. However, if they decide to keep him around, I don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers would be making a horrible decision as long as Ben Roethlisberger is going to come back. Again, that's an if that at one time we all thought was nothing. I'm not saying, and Carly says that this offense blows. Trust me, I know. I'm watching the same thing you all are. But if Ben Roethlisberger comes back, and it's funny that I say that in the same day I was planning this episode, planning this article, doing all this legwork for this show, Ben Roethlisberger, this news surrounding him is leaked out, stating that he is not sure if he's going to come back and play. Now, since then, Chris Mortensen of ESPN, who has released that news, he kind of doubled back and said that no, the sources say he's going to play, he's going to do the best he can, blah, 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 all that stuff. And so for me, if Ben Roethlisberger is going to come back, then I think Randy Fichtner gets another shot, period. Because honestly, although they're young, they do have some good returning pieces in 2020. James Washington definitely has shown something, which is better than nothing. Deontay Johnson looks to be a legitimate budding star wide receiver. I'm not going to say superstar, but he certainly has an explosiveness that the Steelers need at that position. Juju Smith-Schuster could benefit from having Washington and Johnson. Doesn't mean they don't need other horses in that stable, but absolutely, I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, offense could be trending in the right direction. They're going to need to put some pieces together, tight end, offensive line depth, running back, maybe. But here's the thing. I know that this isn't going to be a popular topic right now, entering Week 17, because right now, Randy Fichtner is vilified. I get it. It's been bad. It's been bad all around. From top to bottom, it's been bad. But at the same time, I'm just preaching patience, and I'm using Keith Butler as the perfect example. Everyone wanted him fired. I would say that people wanted him fired more so than they want Randy Fichtner fired right now. I definitely think that is that was the mantra of the fan base at that time. I'm talking about when Cortez Allen and Antoine Blake and John Bostic and Sean Spence, when they kept on bringing all these people and it just wasn't working, they kept on saying the defensive coordinator has got to go. And now no one is saying the defensive coordinator has got to go. Since they brought in some quality players, you draft Devin Bush, you make the aggressive trade to get Minkah Fitzpatrick, and all of a sudden, everyone is content. Maybe not happy. I mean, how can you be upset with Keith Butler in this defense? That's an honest question. And so, guess what I'm saying is that for me, Fichtner deserves a chance at redemption. We'll put it that way. Now, Brian brought up a good point when I brought this up during the Steelers Hangover, which you haven't checked that out. Check out that episode. It's a really good one with Tony. I did not join for the whole show. Okay, so it was their show. I was a little spot guest part, and then I was out of there. And Brian said, he brought up last year at the end of the season when Antonio Brown was on the team and Ben Roethlisberger was healthy. And yeah, I get it. Randy Fichtner is actually, although he's been in the NFL for a long time, is still probably learning some of the ropes in regards to being a coordinator, play calling. And so I think that for me, I personally feel that Keith Butler on the other side, who is probably going to get a contract extension, is the perfect example of why we as Steeler fans need to maybe take a step back, realize that you can't just turn every single player and play into a superstar just by snapping your fingers. He's not a magician. And so he probably, I would say that he probably got the best out of Devlin Hodges that he could. Did he get the best out of Mason Rudolph? That's debatable. But ultimately, I think that Randy Fichtner, he deserves at least one more shot, especially if Ben Roethlisberger comes back. Now, if Ben Roethlisberger doesn't come back, well, that's a different story altogether. If Ben Roethlisberger for some reason doesn't come back, and let's be honest, I've had a lot of people ask about the, what do these rumors mean? To me, these rumors are simple, and that is Ben Roethlisberger is a 38-year-old quarterback who's coming off of surgery on his throwing elbow. Nothing is guaranteed when it comes to 2020 for Ben Roethlisberger. He hasn't even thrown an object yet. And so reports are that he won't throw until February or March. And if that's the case, what happens if the first few throws excruciating pain or a potential re-injury? You don't know. The Steelers are putting all their baskets, and they have for the past 2 seasons, on Ben Roethlisberger. And they doubled down on that by giving him that hefty contract extension. So now, we'll see what happens. But the premise of this Next Man Up podcast was maybe Randy Fichtner deserves to get some time, like Keith Butler got some time. And no one's complaining about Keith Butler now. So maybe that's what Randy Fichtner needs. There's a lot of people in the live chat right now that completely disagree with this sentiment, and that's okay, folks. That's okay. If we all agreed, wouldn't life be boring? Wouldn't it be boring? I mean, that's just the crux of it. If you disagree with me, that's fine. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. That's something that in the comment section of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, I wish more people understood. And that is that it's okay to disagree. Your thoughts, my thoughts can be different, and we can still coexist, and we can still root for the same black and gold team, believe it or not. So I'd like to take the back half of this episode and to take your questions. If you want to use the super chat feature, which Cody Marshall did here, put $5 in the tip jar. That's what I refer to as the tip jar. You are more than welcome to do so. That $5 is going to go towards the show. We've been purchasing these Blue Yeti microphones, which I hope you've enjoyed the increased sound quality, improved sound quality, I should say. We've also upgraded our streaming service, so we're going to be able to do some new cool things with that. So it's not just going to waste. I hope that you all understand that. But if you can't or don't want to donate your own money, I get that as well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, set your notifications so that you never miss a show, especially in the off season. If we are going to do multiple shows on certain days, you don't want to miss one. And so set your notifications, whether it's push button notification, an email, whatever the case may be. It all helps the program. So Cody Marshall, as I said, puts $5 in the tip jar. I'll put that up on the screen here. He said, it's been a fun season to watch. Highs and lows. Behind the Steel Curtain has made me more excited for the games. Merry Christmas to the BTSC family. Cody, thank you very much. I hope that everyone that listens to these shows also checks out the website. And we're publishing 10, 11, 12 game days. It's even more than that, articles a day. In the offseason, it definitely scales back a little bit, but you're still looking at 8 to 10 articles a day. If you are a diehard Steeler fan, there's no other place to be, period. I'm not going to tell you not to go to other places because I'm not dumb enough to think that you're only going to come to our site. There are other good sites out there, and so you'll check them out. I just hope that we're one of your rotation, period. I hope that we're your go-to first, and then you check out the other ones. We'll put it that way. Ryan Kellerman, I'm sorry, wrong one. That moved on me. Ryan Kellerman says, if you were the GM, Jeff, which would you draft first? Quarterback, running back, outside linebacker, or nose tackle? And this is a difficult question because we have to, and this is the Dave Schofield answer, because I asked him this one time on a burning question, and he him-hawed around about it. It depends on what the Steelers do at positions like outside linebacker or nose tackle. If they bring back Bud Dupree, there's no need for an outside linebacker. If they re-sign Javon Hargrave, no need for a nose tackle. The funny thing is that you have to ask yourself that the Steelers have no first-round draft picks. So unless they're going to trade up into the first round, I would say the quarterback's off the board. But then again, I'm not really sure about the depth of quarterback class in this upcoming draft. We all know the big names, Joe Burrow, Tua, all those guys. The kid from Oregon, I just don't know his name. Running back seems to be a little bit more realistic, but let's not forget that this team needs a tight end because they're not in great cap space. Although the Antonio Brown money is going to come off the books, they're still pretty tight up to the cap. So I think that they're going to have to cut some players. So I'm thinking about players like Ramon Foster could be gone. Vance McDonald could be gone. Those are the two off the top of my head that I think that are eating up a significant amount of cap space that they could free up some space. And if they free up that space, you could see Bud Dupree being having a franchise tag placed on him, or you could see Javon Hargrave re-signed. I think Hargrave is a huge priority for this team, especially as he has played so well spelling Stephon Tuitt since he left with a pectoral injury. But great question, Ryan. I hate to not really give you a solid answer, but there's so much that has to be done first before you think about the draft. And we will be talking about the draft a lot once the offseason gets here. 98671X says Jeff is soft. Jeff is soft. He's in the holiday spirit. Okay, I'm soft. I'm sorry. Let's see here. Gyra says, do you think Pittsburgh will find a way to bring back Le'Veon? No, I don't. I just think that he would ask for way too much. But at the same time, it's interesting to say the least. Double H brings up Ramon and Vance are also Ben's buddies. I think if these little rumors that have started recently have said anything, it's that you can't let Ben Roethlisberger run the team, because what if he says, I'm done. I've enjoyed this time with my family. I've enjoyed this time being away from the grind and the physical abuse of football. I don't want him. I don't want to be back anymore. Then what do? You basically put all your chips into one basket. So I don't like that idea, but I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying there. Dragon Jay-Z said, what's everyone's obsession with a first-round quarterback? Wilson, Dak, Brady, all not first-round quarterbacks. And you're right. But then there's also been a lot of first-round quarterbacks that have actually played well too. So yes, there are those, the antithesis to the rule. But let's not forget about the first-round picks that pan out. And there have been some that flamed out. We just look at Cleveland, the long list of Cleveland's quarterbacks. But at the same time, it's not a guarantee. You're right. Absolutely. Let's see here. Trying to find a few more questions. Nap 1963 says, my real complaint with the offense is its predictability, particularly out of certain sets. You always know what's coming, so you know what the opposing D knows too. And yeah, like I said, I don't know if Nap, if you were at the beginning of the show when I kind of gave the background for this episode. I'm not stating that I'm happy with the offense. I'm not stating that I'm happy with everything that Randy Fichtner does. But at the same time, I also understand that I think that if he has a full complement of players and it remains the same, then we know we have a huge issue. You know, does that make sense? I hope it does, because I think for me that I don't remember the predictability being such a big deal last year. Put it that way. I could be wrong, because I definitely do focus solely on 1 year at a time, 1 game at a time, because as the editor of a major website and as someone that produces audio content as much as we do here, I really just have to figure out, what's going on every single day. So there you go. Dragon Jay-Z. Jeff, who do you think is the best OC available at the moment? I don't know at the moment who the best one available is. I said this on our Wednesday Standard as a Standard last week when it was asked who would we hire. I would try to get Byron Leftwich out of Tampa Bay. I don't know, if that's, a possibility. I don't know what contract situations look like for coaches compared to players, but at the same time, that's the guy that I would target. I'm not sure that would work out in terms of the fact that he is under contract with Tampa Bay and he's down there with Bruce Arians, but I think that would be a really good fit for him if he could come to Pittsburgh. We'll see. Ryan O'Toole, let me see if I can bring that up here. In hindsight, do you think that they should have hung on to Landry Jones? Have a great Christmas, Jeff. Ryan, you have a great Christmas too. I hope you and yours have a happy holidays. Absolutely. Landry Jones is Landry Jones. To me, Landry Jones and Mason Rudolph, is there much of a difference? I can't think of one. They're both built very similar in terms of their tall, decent arm, not mobile, smart football players. I don't think that I didn't find myself saying, man, if we still had Landry Jones this year, we'd be fine. I found myself thinking Landry Jones, we'd be in the same issues we're having right now. So I get what you're saying. I personally, I don't miss Landry Jones at all. Some people are saying, what about some free agent quarterbacks? Let's see here. That's the wrong one. I'm sorry. Rajan39 says free agents: Carr, Cam Newton, Phillip Rivers, Teddy Bridgewater. I think Teddy Bridgewater is going to get paid big time. That's a guy that stepped in down in New Orleans this year when Drew Brees was out with a thumb injury. They didn't lose a game. And I'm not saying that they won because of Teddy Bridgewater, but you need winners in this league at quarterback. And he did just that. He was a winner. We got him wins, period. And so I don't think the Steelers would be able to afford a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, but you never know. But free agent, man, when you look at free agency the past few years, it has just gotten ridiculous. Some of these mid-range free agent players are what they're getting. Now, I'm not saying it's not at the NBA level yet, but it's getting there. It's trending that way. So I definitely think that the Steelers play their cards correctly when they take a pause during free agency. They let those first wave of players go, and then they start putting their sights on certain players or certain targets. In the perfect example is Steven Nelson. He was their first free agent acquisition this past season. He was a day one acquisition, but was not considered a top-end free agent cornerback yet, has turned into one, in my opinion. I think he absolutely has. So there you go. Let's hear. This is a good point by I Push Hard. He said there's a big difference between an NFL caliber quarterback and a franchise quarterback. I absolutely agree with you, because if you were to ask me, is Mason Rudolph an NFL caliber quarterback? I would say yes. He's young, he's learning, but he has all the tools that you would look for in a quarterback: size, strength, I guess you could say mobility, intelligence, moxie, if you want to put that as a category in this discussion. But is he a franchise quarterback? Franchise quarterbacks are players you build your whole franchise around. Ben Roethlisberger is a franchise quarterback. The Baltimore Ravens have a franchise quarterback in Lamar Jackson. Cleveland Browns think they have a franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield. You can see it all over the place. I would even say, Russell Wilson in Seattle, franchise quarterback. Absolutely. Drew Brees, franchise quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, franchise quarterback. After this season, he's a franchise quarterback. So that is a difference. And I Push Hard as a great point. That's a great point. You're talking about the difference between an NFL caliber quarterback, someone that, they can go out and make a play. They can go out and win you some games. Someone like what Kyle Smith just brought up, Mariota. Marcus Mariota is not a franchise quarterback, but is he an NFL caliber quarterback? Yeah, absolutely he is. Absolutely he is. So That's a really good point. Really, really good point. A lot of people were digging my Byron Leftwich as offensive coordinator. Here's Realtree Z71 brings up Hines Ward. So the Pittsburgh Steelers obviously have a need at the wide receiver coach. Richard Sherman is filling that job right now. Hines Ward is also an offensive assistant for the New York Jets. It would be really interesting to me if the Steelers would think, you know what? Why don't we bring Hines back, coach the wide receivers? He can definitely bring back some of the emotion that maybe Daryl Drake had at the time. I'm not here to say that Richard Sherman's not doing the job. I just don't know if it's what they want. Would Hines come back? Would he come back just to be a wide receivers coach? I don't know what his intentions are as a coach. Does he want to be a head coach? Does he want to be a coordinator? Does he want to do everything? I don't know. It would be great to see Hines back in the black and gold. It just did not look right seeing him in the green, wearing a Gotham City football sweatshirt. Made me sick to my stomach. Ray Sherman. I'm sorry, Michael H. Did I say Richard Sherman? I think I did say. I'm sorry. It's been a long day, but no, not Richard Sherman, the cornerback. I made a mistake, folks. I'm human. I apologize. Oh, geez. Michael O'Malley saying that he didn't like seeing Hines Ward beating the Steelers. Yeah, he got the Gatorade bath and everything. They were happy for him. And I'm sure that's one that Hines is going to remember, because some people thought that they would go after Hines Ward when Daryl Drake passed, and they didn't. Some people, myself included, thought the Steelers might go after Hines Ward prior to even getting Daryl Drake as their coach. They didn't. So maybe there's some animosity there. I don't think so. Hey, Ryan, take it easy with the Lance Jr. stuff. I made one mistake, okay? I'm not Lance Williams. I'm not saying all the other. Give me a break. Seriously, give me a break. Dante Harris says, Jeff, will Tomlin bench Duck and play Paxton Lynch this week if Duck isn't doing well? To be honest with you, this is a game, Week 17 in Baltimore, which Dave Schofield sent me a text message today stating that I didn't realize that the Pittsburgh Steelers are favored in this game. And think about that they're favored in this game because John Harbaugh, if you didn't hear, he came out, that's right, Wang Harbs, he came out today and said that they're sitting guys like Lamar Jackson, Yonda, Earl Thomas. There are several others. The article's on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. I wrote that article. They're not playing them, period. So the Steelers are going to be going against RG3, and they're going to be going against their backup safeties and a couple cornerbacks maybe. So for me, this is a game that you win at all costs. So you go in with Devlin Hodges as your quarterback. But at the same time, if he plays the same way he did at the beginning the first half of Week 16, he's done. He's done. Because he's thrown 6 interceptions in the last 2 games, and he's only played 6 quarters of those games. Granted, he did come back in. The last game, he led the Steelers to 0 points. 0 points. They scored 10 in the second quarter when Mason Rudolph came in relief, and they didn't score again. That shows me that there's a guy that is really lost his confidence. You see him on the sideline. You see him just in little snippets that they show on television. The confidence that made Devlin Duck Hodges Duck, he doesn't have it right now. But you saw the same look from Mason Rudolph when he got benched in Cincinnati in Week 12. Yet when he came back in the game Week 16, he had regained that confidence, regained that swagger. We'll see. But I absolutely think that if he's not playing well and if he's not protecting the football, you go to whoever else you have. Period. If that's Paxton Lynch. So be it. That's my thought on it. Because if they win, you have a chance. And Bill O'Brien saying that the Texans are going to play their starters in Week 17 against Tennessee. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But if you do your part and you beat the backup Ravens, I'm not going to apologize for that. And then the Tennessee Titans lose, you're in. Period. You're in. Mike Cox says, Jeff, what do you think about head coach Bill O'Brien saying the Texans will play their starters? Mike, I obviously just brought that up. Didn't even see your question at the time. For me, I hope he's right. But at the same time, I realize he also could be just a little gamesmanship with a division opponent. saying that, hey, we're going to play our starters no matter what, because we're going to go out there and we're going to go out there to win. And we're going to go out there to win. And he might realize that it's not worth having Deshaun Watson get banged up, because they're not going to get a bye. They're going to play in that first round, the wild card round. So we'll see. I guess what I'm saying is I believe it when I see it. Grayson Brown, he's a longtime listener, longtime hater of the show. He always falls under the hater category. He says Mason has not been the same since the concussion, and I'm not disagreeing with that at all. But I did feel that when he came into the game against the Jets, he did resemble the same type of quarterback that we saw in Seattle in week 2 when he came in for Ben Roethlisberger. So for that, I think that he was at least showing signs of looking closer to pre-concussion Mason Rudolph. So there you go. Let's see here. Kyle Smith says, if Rudolph makes a jump from year 2 to year 3 like he did from year 1 to year 2, going off preseason, can he be a true starter? I'm trying to think of a quarterback. I've been trying to think of this the past few days. And if you're in the live chat and you can think of someone, let me know. There's one player that comes to the top of my head. I'm just not sure if it really falls into this category. I'm trying to think of a quarterback that wasn't a top-tier draft pick. Obviously, Mason Rudolph was a third-round pick. Didn't play much their first year. Played sparingly their second year, but really was kind of like a late bloomer in terms of production. I'm trying to think of a quarterback. So the quarterback I have in mind is Kirk Cousins. And he's not, I don't think he's elite. Joe Flacco is elite. I'm not trying to say that at all. But what I'm trying to say is that Kirk Cousins is also a serviceable NFL quarterback. Can that be Mason Rudolph as a starter? I guess that's the question. And I'm trying to think, is there any other quarterback recently that didn't play much early on and then really kind of came into their own later? Everyone thinks Aaron Rodgers, but he sat behind Brett Favre, and he was a top pick. He was a top round pick as well. So if you think of something, let me know, because I'm trying to think of an angle for an article or a podcast, and I would love to think about that. I'm going to be honest. Mike brings this up. I'm going to say this real bluntly right now. He says, Jeff, what do you think about the team drafting Jonathan Taylor, the star running back out of Wisconsin, to replace James Conner? I can certainly talk about whether or not I think that James Conner should be the team's quarterback or running back next season. I don't know enough about college football players right now. I just don't watch a lot of college football. I could probably tell you that I guess maybe 5 minutes total, 5 minutes of college football this entire season is what I've watched. Maybe. I just don't have a lot of time. On my hands. So people ask me all the time, like, in person, via email, and comment sections of my articles, hey, what do you think about this player? I don't even know who you're talking about, to be honest with you. I don't even know what you're talking about. Now, Joe Shumway brings up a good name here. Oh, and here's another one. Robert says Steve Young. Steve Young was drafted. I don't know when Steve Young was drafted, but he was drafted by Tampa Bay and then went to San Francisco. He had to take his time. Steve Young is a good one. Another one for Joe Shumway says, what about Kurt Warner? That's a good one as well. So how long before Tom Brady started? It was only a few, maybe 1 or 2 seasons, and Drew Bledsoe got hurt, and that's when he came in. But even Brady, I'm trying to think back to Brady. It's been so long since Brady was a rookie. So there you go. Let's see here. Steve O'Neill says, does anyone see James Conner's locker room interview? He said he feels great, made up injuries in the NFL. I don't know if he made it up. I do know that James Conner told Brooke Pryor of ESPN today that he had an MRI done on his leg. He said this doesn't feel right. And so, I don't know. There you go. Jaden Wilson says, looks like you have time to do broadcasts. I do because this is a job. This is part of my job. This pays me money to do. So yeah, I'm going to make time for that. I also have 5 children and a wife. And so I honestly don't have a lot of time to watch any games outside of the Steelers. But you know what? I'm going to do the best I can in the offseason to really study some of these guys. I learn a lot of these players and their names, the college players, definitely during the mock draft season, and then the combine rolls around. That's when you really get to know this. Michael O'Malley says, there an update on Mason Rudolph? Nothing official. Reports from Adam Schefter and guys like Ian Rappaport is that he is out. Definitely not out short term, more for long term. So, you know, there's even rumors that if they win on Sunday and get in, or if they lose and get in, that he's not even going to be available in the playoffs. I think that if you ask me, this is it looked like maybe a collarbone or an AC sprain. That's something that, remember when Ben Roethlisberger in the 2015, I think, playoffs, when he got tackled by Burfict, landed on his shoulder, very similar. Cody Marshall asked, is James Washington okay? Yeah, that ankle. He finished the game. Now, whether that flared up, I don't know. Mike Tomlin will have his weekly press conference tomorrow, Tuesday at noon, and we will cover that on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. So make sure you check that out. I'll definitely have the injury update immediately after the press conference so that you can see what he said, what it means for the Steelers moving forward, and things like that. Michael says, Jeff, you're doing a great job. Always insightful. Keep it up. Love the show. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate that. Dusk Thunder 9 says, Jeff, what's your opinion on the Steelers offensive line? Every week I write an article. It's the winners and losers column for the Pittsburgh Steelers after every game. And the offensive line fell on the losers category this week. And honestly, they kind of have fallen there more often than not in the past few weeks, in the probably majority of this season. They surrendered 4 sacks, 7 quarterback hits. And listen to this, guys. I had to double check this. 10.5 tackles for losses. 10.5 in one game. I think that Dan's right. Dan says the O-line is overrated. I think that they're still good. They're still a good group. But they're not great. They're not as great as everyone thought they were, and they're not great as they used to be. Some of that comes with age. Ramon Foster, Marquise Pouncey, they're getting up there, period. It makes me wonder, Pouncey just got that brand new contract. Ramon Foster got a new contract. Maybe they were over-evaluating some of their own players. I don't know. But they're going to have some work to do on the offensive line coming up soon. Pretty much, period. Dallas says, were you impressed, Jeff, by Mason's play when he came? I was impressed when Mason Rudolph came back into the game because he came in, he had a confidence about him. He delivered some really nice throws early on, which I think is important for him, and most quarterbacks it is, that you have to deliver good footballs, and you kind of get that confidence, get that swagger going. You know, that's what he needed, and he got that. And he led the team down 10 points just like that, second quarter. And then when they got the ball after halftime, I'm thinking this momentum's just going to keep rolling. That didn't happen. And then he gets injured. I guess the question, I asked this to Lance Williams on our postgame show. I said, Lance, if Mason Rudolph doesn't get hurt, do the Steelers win? He said no. I think they would have. Maybe it's just crazy, but I think they would have. Jermaine Jackson says this about the offensive line talk we were just having. He said, Mike Munchak made our O-line great, and it shows. That is something that we'll probably never really know the true impact that Mike Munchak did or did not have on this offensive line. I'm not in the meeting rooms. I don't know what's going on at practice. I don't know what Sean Surrett does that's different than what Mike Munchak did or still does. I don't know. I don't know what we can sit here and speculate, but that's all it is speculation. I know that Mike Munchak is a heck of a coach, was a heck of a player. He's a Hall of Famer for a reason. I just think it's a situation where the Pittsburgh Steelers it's a position that they're getting older, period. I just don't know what the answer is right off the top of my head. So, okay, folks, I just want to make sure that everyone's aware of the fact that we really here at BehindTheSteelCurtain.com and our podcast platform appreciate everyone that takes the time out of their day to spend a little bit of it in the live chat talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. This first show, we have over 120 people watching live. All we ask is that you just hit the thumbs up button. That's it. Hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel. We're really close to 5,000 subscribers. We wanted that goal before the end of the regular season. We're so close. Help us out. Help us out. Get us that 5,000. That's what we want. Get us that 5K. We appreciate all the support. I will be back. Well, I'm sorry, tomorrow. It is Tuesday. Dave will be here for a Steelers Stat Geek around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So make sure you check that out. You can check it out live on YouTube. You can check it out on replay on YouTube, as well as our audio platforms a little bit later in the day. On Wednesday, I don't know if Lance will be with me. One of us will be here talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, and the standard is the standard on Christmas Day. Yes, that's right. We'll do the best that we can to get on the air together. But with me on the East Coast, Lance on the West Coast, both of us having families and both of us having obligations, it might be challenging. Thursday, the Steelers preview will be back, better than ever. And then Friday, we'll just continue to roll on all the way into week 17. And that's it. That's it, folks. And make sure you're checking out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com for all your Pittsburgh Steelers needs. And make sure that you hit the thumbs up button on this video. We appreciate it. All the support. The next man up. Maybe this is a regular thing now. We'll see. If you like it, let me know. Leave a comment on the video. I appreciate it. And as Lance Williams always says, tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. Have a happy holidays, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.